Hi, welcome y'all. Thanks for being here. We're so excited for yet another edition of an Emory Admitted Student virtual panel. We're going to give just a couple of minutes for folks to log in. And we have our wonderful panel already set up and ready to go. We're just going to wait a second to get started. Thanks so much for being here. Huge congratulations on your admission to Emory. That is certainly no small feat this year. So thanks for being here. We're excited. Gonna give it just a second for some more folks to log in. All right. Don't want to waste anyone's time. So let's go ahead and get started. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Thanks so much for being here. My name is Josh Beskind, and I'm an admission counselor and also a very proud alum here at Emory University. We have some wonderful other alums with us tonight. I'll let them introduce themselves in just a second, but we're so excited to have you joining us. This is our, I think, at least like 13th or 14th kind of virtual admitted student panel that we're doing. We wanted to make sure that we had options for our admitted students to connect with us, whether it was in person here on campus or online. And so we're glad that you're here, going to help answer any questions that you might have as that the big decision is coming up for you all. But first of all, a huge congratulations to all of you for getting accepted. This year was especially tough. I mean, I think our acceptance rate for regular was around 8% or a little bit less. So you are clearly qualified to be here. We're so excited. Hope you're proud of all that you have accomplished. But without further ado, I want to kind of pass it along to my wonderful young alumni panelists here tonight and let them kind of introduce themselves. They'll tell you kind of who they are, what year they graduated from Emory, although they already put that in their little Zoom name. So thanks for doing that, y'all. And then they'll tell you what they're up to and also what they did at Emory, what they studied, and kind of some activities that they're involved in. So, Heather, you want to get us started and say hello?
Yeah, for sure. Great to meet everyone. Again, congratulations for getting to Emory. Again, just echoing what Josh said, that's a great feat. So hopefully you guys end up deciding to go. Hopefully we'll also convince you guys today as well. But my name is Heather. I graduated in 22 from the business school. I studied finance and information systems at the business school and double majored in QSS. I'm originally from North Carolina, but I'm now living in Boston, working consulting. And at Emory, I was in Res Life. I was a tour guide, and was in a sorority as well. So those are kind of some of my activities. I love to kind of speak to any of those things if you guys have questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Heather. Jaden, you want to pop in?
Sure thing. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. My name is Jaden. I also graduated in 2022 from the business school and I studied finance and organizational management. I still actually live right by campus in Decatur and I work in Atlanta also as a consultant. And on when I was at Emory, I was part of the honor council. I also was in like the tennis club and a few business clubs.
Awesome. Thanks. Priscilla, take it away.
Hi everyone, my name is Priscilla. I graduated from the college in 2022, which seems like forever ago, but I majored in anthropology and human biology with a double major in integrated visual arts on the pre-med track. So if any of you have any questions, feel free to let me know. During my time at Emory, I was involved in research, RHA, Emory Questbridge Scholars, and a few other things that I'm having trouble remembering. But right now I work at Oak Street Health as a clinical informatics specialist. So yeah.
Awesome. And last but not least, Andrew, the floor is yours.
Everyone, nice to meet you guys. Congratulations on getting accepted to Emory. That's a really cool thing, and I'm excited for you guys to potentially come to Emory. But my name's Andrew. I graduated in 2023. Started at Oxford for 2 years, and then the second 2 years I was in the BBA program. Studied finance and real estate. Um, right now, I'm living in the city. I work in finance, and some of the activities that I was involved in at Emory include student government, Emory entrepreneurship and venture management, as well as some other programs in the real estate area. So really excited to get to know you guys today.
Awesome. So as you can see, we've got some amazing panelists, super involved in the Emory community. That's pretty common for Emory students to have a lot of different activities going on. I just want to kind of say before we dive in with kind of a few questions that I've prepared tonight, please feel free to use the Q&A function. That is kind of how we're going to communicate with y'all. So if you put your questions in there that you have for our alums, whether it's questions that you have for kind of one specific alum or that you want the whole group to answer, that's going to be the best place to do it. And of course, feel free to keep that going throughout the panel tonight. I've got some prepared questions if y'all run up, but we're here for you and to kind of know what's on your mind that would help kind of make you make a decision here in these next couple of weeks, or maybe you've already committed and you want to know what's life going to be like here at Emory. So feel free to use that Q&A function. But I'm going to start with kind of a few questions of my own. And I would love for kind of all of the panelists to jump in with their experiences here. And our first question is kind of how did you navigate finding your particular major or area of interest at Emory, and how are you supported in that process? So whoever is ready to go, take it away.
I can start us off. So if I remember correctly, it's been a few years now, but I think initially just the classes I started taking my freshman year got me interested in like the business area as a whole. And then there was a program I participated in that matched you with like a Emory alumni who was like your mentor. And so I got matched with someone who was in investment banking. And so through that, I kind of learned more about business and the different types of areas within business. And I just figured that that would be my route. And then later on towards like junior year, actually being in the business school, I got to experience different areas. And that's when I pivoted from banking into consulting, and that's where I ended up. But I think that Emory supports you really well, whether it's through classes, clubs, programs, and whatnot.
Awesome. Already plugging the Emory Alumni Network, and I didn't even have to ask before. I love it. Thanks, Jane.
I think for me, my route was a little unconventional. So there's something called Add Drop Swap Week, which is like the first 2 weeks before like where you can kind of shop for your classes. So I accidentally enrolled in anthropology because I didn't know how to use the function at first. So I was like, oh shoot, this class starts in 5 minutes. I ran over there, literally 5 minutes I ran. And then basically I took the class and on my first day I really enjoyed it. And I was like, oh, okay, this isn't too bad. So I ended up sticking with the course. And then afterwards I grabbed coffee and later on lunch with my professor. And I think a lot of the topics that he was researching like really overlapped with things that I was really interested in. And that's how I ended up declaring my major. It's a little unconventional, but it was fun. So
Yeah, that's a great story. I love it.
I can go next. I would say I kind of went into Emory thinking it'd have like maybe a business focus, but I wanted to double major. So I really shopped around for my double major a lot more than I did for my, I guess official business major. I think first or week or two of school, there's a whole bunch of like various fairs, like there's, the various, academic clubs have, activities and then also, sports as well. So I actually joined Emory Crew my first semester and then also attended various academic fairs. And I would say combined, I was able to like look at a lot of different departments, tried out economics for a little bit, looked into like psychology and everything. But then a senior from my club from Crew, which for those who may not know, it's like rowing. He was like QSS is like really big into like it's big in the market now. Like there's a lot of cool classes within the department as well, and it's really new. So you'd be really paving a way within the Emory department, starting the classes and trying out new things. So that's really how I found quantitative sciences. So it's a combination of like exploring the career fairs as well as talking to other students at Emory.
Awesome. Thanks, Emmett.
I can jump in as well here. I think for me, when I joined Emory in freshman year, I was not sure what I was going to do. I think I had thought political science or like international relations was what I wanted to study. But when I got to campus, I realized that that wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do. So I think there were two ways really that I figured out my path and my major. The first was a discovery seminar at Oxford, which I don't know if they still have it today, but it was a discovery
Yeah.
seminar on economics and inequality. And I remember that class being so pivotal in my experience overall. Being able to write papers on economics and just really diving into the material helped me become more interested in the area. And then that professor that taught that class was actually a really good mentor to me. I took, I think, 2 or 3 classes with that professor, and ultimately she guided me towards the business school and told me that, that might be the area that you're most interested in. And then the second way that I really learned what my major was just through the entrepreneurship club. I remember like the first or second week of classes, there was a club fair on the quad, and we were just walking around looking at all the different clubs. And the entrepreneurship club was super excited, and they really wanted new members. So I was like, okay, I'm going to join this club. I had no idea what really they were doing, but it was ultimately like some of the best friends I ever made, and it also exposed me to a lot of the entrepreneurship at Emory, which I think the hatchery is one of the programs that Emory offers, and that was another way that I really got into understanding entrepreneurship, finance, and economics. So that was kind of my path.
Yeah, thanks for sharing those paths. I love that we had different folks touch on connecting with alumni and peers and professors and different resources. So there's a lot of different ways through Emory, but it's always great to really feel supported in that process. So thanks for sharing. Our next question is kind of when did you start to think about kind of the career and professional aspect of things? So we've talked about your major, but how did you kind of think about, okay, what's next after Emory in terms of your career and goals that you had in mind? And what kind of resources did you utilize to help you develop and achieve your career goals?
I can kind of take this one first. So given I had an interest in business to begin with, they put on a whole bunch of events for folks, freshman and sophomore year. So I attended various different events put on by business clubs as well as companies that they brought in for talks and speakers and such. So from there, like I had also, similar to Jaden, thought I'd do investment banking. So I actually attended a few investment banking type events, realized it was not for me, and then was able to kind of pivot and find other kind of things that more fit my interests. From there, PwC has my company, they have kind of a partnership with Emory, and they were hosting a lunch and learn for sophomore women. So I was able to kind of get my foot in the door with consulting there and attended like a networking session with those who are currently at the company. And so from there, I was able to kind of be guided into like my current role and get my internship as well from that experience. So I would say the connections that Emory has with kind of the greater community is really strong, not only within kind of the Atlanta business community, there's a lot of Fortune 500 companies as well, but the greater US economy. And there's lots of different companies and resources out there. So yeah, I would say student organizations were a big part of my journey, as well as kind of the companies and networks that Emory has.
Awesome. Thanks, Heather.
I think also adding on to that point, I think Emory has really, really good connections with the alumni that exist. And I think that comes through in a lot of the classes you'll take. So at least in the classes I was a part of, we had usually 1 or 2 speakers come and talk about their career path, for example, in real estate. And I think that really informed my decision as to what would my job look like after graduating. So I think I would encourage you, when you take your classes at Emory, get to know the speakers that come to those classes. And I think that will really help inform you on the decisions that you make down the line.
Yeah, great advice. Thanks.
For me, I think I started seriously thinking about life after Emory, probably around like end of sophomore year, beginning of junior year. And definitely in the B school, at least, they definitely kind of force that on you, which I appreciate because sometimes I can be one of inaction, but in the B school, they definitely like force you to think through different careers and network with people, and learn about different areas of interest. And then they support you along the way. And then once you kind of narrow it down, then it's kind of smooth sailing from there.
I think for me, like speaking with the advising office definitely helped. Like if any of you are pre-health, you're actually required to meet with like your pre-health advisor, like your first semester at Emory, or like at least before the end of your first year. And they really put into perspective like what you actually need to apply to like med school, PA school, and also like opportunities for like during your time at Emory and after your time at Emory. So I actually did an internship during my time at Emory, and that's how I landed my current role. So yeah.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. We have such amazing advisors here, whether it's pre-health advisors, pre-law advising, the business career advisors, and they all kind of fall under the umbrella of the Pathways Center, which I know is kind of new for y'all alums here. But the Pathways Center really is kind of the umbrella under which all of our kind of career counseling, if you're going into even higher education, kind of helping you get prepared for that. And they've done just such an amazing job of helping students find kind of not just like what job do you want to have, but what kind of a career are you looking for as well? And how can Emory and the resources that we have, just y'all mentioned all the different connections, whether it's alumni or guest speakers or things like that, really helping students leverage that into whatever that next step may be. So thanks for bringing that up. Just a friendly reminder, please utilize that Q&A function if you have anything that you want our amazing alums to answer and help you, that would be kind of helpful for you in this moment. But moving on to the next question, the kind of title for our panel here tonight talks about the liberal arts, because that really is a core aspect of who we are at Emory, regardless of whether you're in business or pre-health or the humanities or whatever you're in, everyone has to have that liberal arts experience. And so on that note, kind of how did the Emory's liberal arts education help prepare you for kind of your first position after graduation, in terms of maybe the things that you were involved in or the skill sets that you've gained along the way as well?
I can take this one first. So in consulting, we are always learning new things and are forced to confront things that we don't know. So we have to be on our feet and quick-witted. And I think coming from Emory with the liberal arts education, you kind of learn to solve problems faster and adapt a lot faster than if you just had like one specific sort of like training or whatever in college. So I think in consulting, that's definitely helped me because we're constantly facing new areas of focus, new industries and whatnot. So we got to get up to speed really fast, and that definitely was helpful.
I can also add in there. I think for me, the tasks that I'm doing on a daily basis today is writing memos and presenting to senior people in the company on certain deals or investments that we're working on. And I think you need to have a liberal arts experience to be able to synthesize a lot of information and be able to present it both verbally and in a written form. And I think that the Emory liberal arts experience was super informative for me. I think in the business school, it's a lot of focus on quantitative math, finance, but I also was able to take some classes in religion and English, and those classes helped build my skill set of just like the language that I use and also the way that I present an argument. And I think all of that really comes together. So one piece of advice that I would have is to definitely take lots of different classes in different areas. When in my senior year, I was able to take classes in religion and classes in English, and I really think that that helped me today.
Yeah, thanks for sharing.
And I think just to add on to that, especially like in the healthcare field, you really have to consider the context in which like people's chronic illnesses exist, if that makes sense. So a lot of them are like specifically like genetically linked. So I think for me, like seeing that and having like my background with anthropology, it kind of helped me understand patients and like where they were coming from. So
Yeah, love that.
Yep. And then I think, Jaden, Andrew, and Priscilla already hit a lot of the major points. I'd say your major, I think, often affects less about your day-to-day when you start your job. I think a lot of what I've learned about a job, I've learned while here. So what you really learn from a liberal arts degree is having kind of the core skills of like being communicative, learning how to write, being able to communicate your, not only to your bosses, but also to peers and kind of organizing yourself as well. So I think these are all skills that are developed more so in a liberal arts education than maybe kind of the technical skills that you think you need to know from your major. So all in all, I think you just become a more whole well-rounded person, and that really makes you a strong candidate and a strong contributor to your teams.
Yeah, thanks, y'all. So my final question before I hand it off to our audience, and I'm going to kind of read those out live for us here, is And so this already came up for some of you, but did you do any kind of internships, research, or study abroad programs in your time here at Emory? And how did you find those opportunities, and how have they kind of helped shape kind of what you're doing now?
So I can speak a little bit about this. I did undergraduate research all 4 years through the School of Medicine. So my research was specifically like targeting like signaling pathways in like cancer development. But there's like the advising office. I'm not sure if they call it the same thing anymore, but it's the undergraduate research experience office. They basically like post links for like labs that are having openings, but also upperclassmen told me like, hey, like if you're really interested, like send an email. Like the worst that they can do is say no. And that's how I ended up finding my research. But also like for seniors who are gonna do like who are majoring in the College of Arts and Sciences, we were able to do an honors thesis in your major. So I also did like a separate project as well. I think you can do it in B school too, but I don't know much about the B school. I'm sorry.
I'm going to add to that. I think similarly, the worst that can happen is to say no. I saw a job posting for a research position actually in the business school. So that was my first experience and kind of exposure to what business research looks like. So it was not in the field I was actually really interested in, but at the same time, I feel like I learned a lot and grew a different perspective on like what does it mean to have like a higher degree within business, and also just develop your other skills. So I would say like research is not just in STEM; it can kind of span all the different majors and departments at Emory. And I also studied abroad. I studied, right before COVID, so got kind of lucky there. I did a summer in Italy for my 8 language credits. I did Italian 101 and 102, and it was amazing. So definitely highly recommend studying abroad if you have the chance.
Awesome.
So my freshman and sophomore year, I worked like an on-campus job inside. I don't remember the exact name of the office, but it was like had to do with travel, like study abroad for students, as well as experiential learning. So I got to work directly with the director of that. And my sophomore year was when COVID happened. So working through all those changes really fast was super interesting. But then after that, I think it was Handshake is like the website to like find internships. So on Handshake, I found an internship after my sophomore year at like a local private equity firm. And then I kind of continued that throughout my junior and senior year part-time, also taking classes. And through my like networking with my boss and his peers, I was able to find my internship after my junior year, which landed my full-time current job.
Yeah, working those connections. I love it.
One thing I'll add here is when I was looking for internships, the first thing that I did was reach out to people that I knew at Emory, and I set up the so-called 15-minute coffee chat to just like talk to talk to people who already graduated or people who are like currently at school, ask them about like their internships and their experiences. And I think that was like super informative. So um Emory's really good about like encouraging collaboration across students that are there now and also have graduated. But my process was I had 3 different internships. The first one was in e-commerce development. um, that one was one that I really enjoyed because it was building websites and doing more of the sales process. And then after that, I had an internship at an investment bank, where I had the opportunity to work over 3 months and build a team inside a large corporation. So that was very different than the e-commerce experience I had, which was more of a startup company. I was very close with the founder, and we were working together on a one-on-one basis. And then the last internship that I had was at an asset manager, and that's the job that I have now. And so I think Emory allowed me to experience lots of different types of internships, large companies, small companies. I think the world is open to you, whatever job or interest that you have. Emory is definitely there to foster that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. That was awesome. That was kind of the end of my prepared questions. And so we're gonna now go to some of these audience questions, and I might tinker with them a little bit to kind of make them applicable to all of our panelists here. But again, feel free to keep those questions coming in the Q&A function. We are here to help you. in any way that we can. But the first question that I want to answer is the one that actually came in the most recently. We're lucky to have a couple of Oxford kind of continuees on this call as well. So Jaden and Andrew, if you could speak to your kind of Oxford experience, socially, and also just kind of about how that transition was when you came over here to the Atlanta campus in your junior year, because we probably have folks on the call who are either accepted to both Emory and Oxford, or maybe just Oxford. So they kind of want to know what that experience will be like for them.
I loved it. I thought it was a great experience. Andrew and I were in a few clubs together back at Oxford, so we knew each other back then. It's super small, so you'll get to know everyone within like the first month or so. I think that they do a great job of trying to keep you like integrated with like the Atlanta campus as well. And there's plenty of opportunities for growth in all aspects of just like a normal college experience. Like I had no qualms at all about Oxford.
Awesome.
I'm not trying to like create division between the two, Emory College and Oxford, but I think Oxford is better. I honestly love Oxford. Some of my best friends that I still have today are from Oxford. I think the classes were amazing. Honestly, being in that campus and feeling like you get to know everybody is just a really fun experience. And I'd also say that Oxford clubs were really tight knit. Like Jaden mentioned, some of the best friends you'll ever meet, and also those clubs at Oxford are the same clubs at Emory, so there is cross collaboration there. I know with Emory Entrepreneurship and Venture Management, we had Ox Ventures at Oxford, which is part of EEVM overall. And so I think that really was a way to get involved in both the Atlanta and the Oxford campuses. But 10 out of 10 Oxford experience.
Yeah, I love it. Every Oxford continuing and alum I've talked to is very passionate about the time there. So thanks for sharing that, y'all. I want to go to another question here that I'm going to tweak a little bit, and it's kind of asking about like the classroom experience. And so I know we have a few folks here on the call who've taken kind of some STEM areas, whether it's a double major or kind of your main major. And so generally, I guess the first part is kind of were those STEM classes kind of a bit more interactive as a result of kind of having that liberal arts vibe to it? And just generally, kind of what was the classroom experience like? I know we also had a lot of business school folks on the call. And so talking about kind of how were your professors? How were the classes set up? Like what kind of interactions did you have? What kind of activities did you do? Like what can our admitted students expect kind of in the classroom? And I know it varies from class to class, but kind of generally, if you could speak to your experience in a classroom at Emory, that would be really helpful for our attendees.
I can go first. I think for STEM classes at Emory, I would say they're a lot more interactive than what I imagined. For bio and chem, it's more of a flipped classroom model. So basically what that means is like you kind of like do a little bit of learning like outside of class. And then when you come to class, you guys will work on worksheets together or like group activities. So if any of you have actually toured Emory, the chemistry building, the chem classes basically have these whiteboard tables and it's circular. So you guys do like group work together. So it definitely fosters like a lot of collaboration. And then like mostly, I would say all of my STEM classes had a lab component. So for physics, chem, and bio, like for the lab component, most of the experiments have like an overall arching theme. So you do kind of experience some kind of continuity, kind of like how you would in research. And then even for like QTM for statistics, like we had to code in R, which I'm not very good at coding, but it's fine. I definitely did learn a lot. And I think they give you a lot of like real world applicable skills. So
Great, thanks.
Something I would add here is that oftentimes you'll find that your STEM classes might also even be cross-listed amongst various departments. And so one of my quantitative sciences class was also cross-listed within the political science department as well as the English department. So I think that was probably one of the most unique classes I took, but it was co-taught by 4 professors, 2 in the political science department, one in, which is like just in QSS, and one, actually, no, I think she was biology actually, one in English. And so like, it was a really cross-functional class. And I think I learned a lot of different perspectives that I wouldn't have. It was just, a straight statistics class. So I think that offers a lot of different kind of content that you're able to kind of learn and develop from within your different classes. And so even if you do have something that would typically be considered more, stereotypical STEM, that we do have a lot of opportunities to kind of expand what that means and kind of cross paths with other type of classes as well.
Totally. Thanks. Y'all don't have to jump in if you don't want to. Just want to keep it that space for it. Okay,
I also
we'll
just
move on.
want to plug that class real fast. It's called Data
Yeah.
Justice, which I think was probably the coolest class I took.
Mm.
It looked at how data can be used in a biased and unbiased way and how it can affect how justice is distributed within society. So if anyone ever has the opportunity, I would highly recommend taking that data justice class.
I love it. Thanks for plugging it. Jaden, did you want to hop in?
I was just going to add that most classes, especially in the business school, are super collaborative. So you're always like working and struggling sometimes with your peers, but it's a great, yeah.
Yeah. I guess on that note, you kind of already started us here a little bit, Heather, but if y'all could share kind of one of your favorite classes from Emory, kind of why it was so memorable for you, that would be awesome.
I can jump into this. So even though I was a business student, my favorite class was actually biological anthropology. It was my one lab required class. But it was super fascinating to just learn about like our ancestry and whatnot. But the the labs specifically were not what I was expecting. So I was thinking like a typical like hard labs, but our labs consisted of like analyzing like different uh pre-human species like skulls and brains and sort of things. And then we also got outside sometimes and like we did like foraging through nature, like look at different like plant species. And one time we did like making fire, which was like crazy to me, but it was so cool. But yeah, it's my like favorite class of all time.
That's awesome. I wish I had taken that. I saw Priscilla you cheering that one on as well.
Sorry, I had to like cheer for my major. That was also one of my favorite classes. I think that's like what made me declare my major.
Mm.
But I think for me, my favorite class was technical art history. It sounds like
Mm.
a very weird class, but basically like we did field trips to the Carlos Museum on campus, and then there's like a lot of artifacts that haven't actually been processed yet by the Carlos. So for this class, we were all like assigned in groups, and then we were given an artifact that we had to basically investigate, like both culturally but also scientifically. So I had to like collect samples off of it and like do NMR spectra and see like what type of paint was used based off of the chemical analysis. So it was definitely like very multidisciplinary, which I really appreciated. So
Yeah, I love that. Super hands-on as well. That sounds like an awesome experience.
I can add in here. I think one of my favorite classes was coffee class at the business school, which is basically a class that teaches you how coffee operates in the business context. So you're looking at it on the supply chain, right? So like it starts at the farm and then it ultimately goes to the coffee shop, right? So like Starbucks or a third wave coffee place. And I think what was really fun about that class was the dialogue that we had in class. So it was really based on us speaking and having a conversation on what were the topics relating to coffee. So whether that's the inequality for the farmers or whether that's like how do you come up with the price for a cup of coffee or the different trends that are in that space, I think was such an interesting way to think about business and also to think about coffee. So definitely take that class. I think it's open to everybody. So anybody in the college or in the business school can take that class. Definitely one of the most fun. The professor's name is Peter Roberts. So keep that one in mind if you're at the if you're at Emory later.
You're
Yeah, I
missing the
saw
best part.
nodding
Oh,
when you brought that up. And I think we're all familiar with the business school coffee class at this point. It's well known on campus. Sorry, Heather.
oh no, go ahead. Yeah, but the best part was that you got free coffee every Tuesday because it was a Tuesday Thursday class. So
Yeah, it's a good deal.
Absolutely.
Coffee's expensive nowadays. Did you want to share another class, Heather? Or are you sticking with data justice?
I mean, I'll put in data justice. I'll put another one as well. I took this at the same time. So when I first kicked off these classes, it was like kind of depressing, but it was also bias in the workplace. So it was like, oh my gosh, like everything is so unjust. But you know, the classes get better. But bias in the workplace was in the business school, and I think also was like really helpful going to the workplace after, just kind of having the perspective of how various societal issues kind of impact how we operate. in the workforce.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. These are great tips for our admitted and hopefully eventually enrolling Emory students. So feel free to keep those questions coming in the Q&A. Really appreciate everyone who's kind of chimed in there so far. This is your time. No question too big, no question too small. But I'm going to keep going in this kind of reminiscing about Emory that we're doing here. I want to ask all of our panelists, what is your favorite Emory memory? You might need to take some time to stew on that one, but take as much time as you need.
There's too many. I think I'll go with something a little simpler. The quad is a beautiful place, and I think especially maybe a little past now, but there's this huge tree on the quad on the Atlanta campus that blooms. It's a magnolia tree and it blooms purple every spring, and it's humongous and it covers, I feel like, a quarter of the quad. And I think a lot of my favorite memories is sitting on the quad and hanging out with friends, whether in the springtime or other times throughout the school year. I think that's a big kind of central part of campus, and I think a lot of fun events are centered there as well. So I think cumulatively, I think a lot of my experiences are really positive around the quad and kind of everything that was held there.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, the tree just bloomed a few weeks ago, and it was a very exciting time on campus. Everyone who walked by was taking pictures of it. So that was awesome. Thanks for bringing that up just to make me remember that from a few weeks ago. And I agree with the quad as well, especially like my senior year when I was just focused on getting the most out of my time left at Emory. I would go to the quad pretty much every day. And the nice thing about Atlanta is the weather's usually pretty good, so you're able to be out there for most of the year. So thanks for bringing that out. That probably would have been something I would have brought up as well. But who else wants to chime in?
I think for me, it was first gen week, like the first time we had it back on campus post-pandemic. Just because it was nice to see everyone gathered. I hadn't seen like a lot of like my fellow Questbridge scholars like since pre-pandemic, and I think the community is like really tight-knit. And there was like a bunch of free food, and we were just celebrating like being first gen. It was great. So I will say Emory does offer a lot of support for first gen students. And I would say that, how do I say this? I spoke to a lot of other Questbridge scholars networks like across the nation, just because like I used to serve as Quest president, so we would kind of talk about like shared struggles on our campuses. But I think like with these conversations, I did notice that Emory administration was like super receptive to feedback. We even have like a first gen identity space now, so yeah.
Thanks for that. That's awesome.
I think adding on to the point of the beauty of Emory's campus, just switching between classes and having like 15 minutes between going to those classes, you get to see all the people that you know, get to say hi to them. You get to look at the beautiful architecture every single day. Like I'm obsessed with the Emory architecture. I think it's like an Italian like Renaissance style, and I think
Got
that's
it
so
behind
cool.
me
That's
here. Yeah.
exactly. It's totally different than any other school that you'd go to, and definitely just try to enjoy the beautiful weather, the changing of the leaves, and just being there with people that you enjoy being around.
I love it. Jaden, take us home.
Yeah, I definitely don't have like one favorite memory, but I think the essence is like early on, like freshman, sophomore year, just like late night hanging out with like friends when you're like meeting a ton of new people and kind of learning more about yourself and what it's like to be like an early adult and just growing so much. But yeah.
I love it. I love it. Lots of different answers, which is always fun to see. Let's see. I'm gonna find another question for us here, and then I'm gonna get back to a couple of the ones that we have submitted. So thanks again for that. And if you have kind of specific questions for one of our panelists, we might try and get some of those in here as well. But to find kind of a question I think would be helpful for everyone is this is a question we get a lot from our prospective students, and I'm sure the admitted students have this on their mind as well. But how do you balance everything that you're involved in? I know all of you talked about the clubs and the internships, and of course, we were all students as well. And so, how do you find that kind of time management in terms of academics, extracurriculars, just personal life, and hanging out with friends? And were there any kind of like resources that you took advantage of to kind of help you get organized and to kind of keep on top of everything while you were at Emory? Because Emory students are pretty active, as we can see here.
I
I
could
feel like
I could
Oh,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I would say like thinking back on it, my answer has changed now that I've like started
Mm,
working and I realize my hours are so different. That time management changes as you grow older. Um, I would say though the biggest thing is like finding spaces where you can do multiple things at once. I think that's a super Emory answer, but like it's also like not a super like conscious thing that you have to do, but like a lot of my social things were also like club things and I could do homework at work and there's various kind of ways to balance like doing two things at once. And it's wasn't exhausting that way as well because you're able to do more. Um I also think like having a calendar was really helpful as well. Like Google Calendar saved my life so many times. Just like, oh, I'm gonna block off this time or I have this thing later and it gives me notifications and um that's how I worked. I know a lot of people prefer, paper calendars as well, but really just finding the system that works for you. Um and being able to like adjust to that is really helpful.
I feel that my GCal was the savior of my life when I started using that junior year. So I'm right there with you. Gotta stay organized.
I think I'm definitely on the same page as the Google Calendar, except for me, I used Outlook, the Outlook calendar, and I think that was literally so helpful. Like being able to put all your classes on there, just staying organized, super important. I think I even for the first 2 years at Emory, I used a paper calendar where it was just like a notebook, and it probably wasn't the most efficient way to be organized, but definitely a fun way to experience every day. Um, and then the other thing I was going to say was I think at Emory, try to focus in on a few things that you really enjoy. Like when you first get there as a freshman, there's literally 1,000 things you could do, and it's awesome and it's exciting. But if you want to really dive deep, try to choose, at least for me, this was my experience, try to choose one or two things that you can really enjoy, really get good at, and have that progress over the 4 years that you're there, so that by the end of it, you can look back and be like, I stuck with this process, I stuck with this club or organization, and now I'm either the president or I've achieved some goal that I set my mind to when I first started. So choose one or two things.
Yeah, a great tip for our students. Thanks.
I think the Emory community is like really tight knit. So for me, like my friends definitely held me accountable. You'll always like have friends in classes or you'll like make new ones. Um, and I'm trying to think. Also, like this sounds so bad, but sometimes like people do make mistakes, and I feel like Emory professors are like really understanding. So if
Mm.
something does happen, you can definitely email them and they'll be like super accommodating. So
Yeah, things come up. That's the reality of life, is that we all have things going on. So I appreciate you bringing that up. That was definitely my experience as well, is where I was saying, oh my gosh, it's admitted students day. And I worked here as a tour guide and I had to be in the office from, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. So like maybe that assignment that was due Friday at 5 p.m. was not going to happen. So professors were really understanding of that. So thanks for bringing that up. I want to get to another of our audience questions here. And this one has to do kind of with the city of Atlanta. And so a couple of folks were wondering kind of how the city being in Atlanta kind of impacted your Emory experience and kind of whether that was socially, professionally, maybe you went to some of the sporting events, maybe you went to Music Midtown or Music Festival here in Atlanta. Kind of what was the Emory, the Atlanta, excuse me, college experience like? I know y'all were all here. You're just thinking, you're thinking.
I, I can start here on this one. I think Emory's position within the Atlanta metro is a perfect spot because you're just far enough away from the chaos of Atlanta, which is really exciting and really fun, but you're also close enough, like a 15-minute drive, to literally go anywhere and do anything. Um, I remember going to, I think it's like 5 Points, Decatur, the Atlanta downtown, also going up to like Alpharetta. You can literally explore everywhere. There's lots of really good restaurants, um, really cool tourist attractions. Definitely as a freshman, go to the I think it's the Atlanta Aquarium. That's where I took like all my family and friends. Like when they came to Atlanta, I'd be like, hey, like it's the aquarium. So definitely check that out when you come to ATL. But really, really fun place to be. And people are always really nice and really exciting.
I think something that makes Atlanta unique is the Coke Museum. I think to an
Mm.
extent, like there's an art museum everywhere. There's an aquarium in most places, but like the Coke Museum is so special to Atlanta, and that's not something you're gonna find anywhere else. So I think there's a Q&A question, like what is something you should do when you're here? I would definitely recommend the Coke Museum. But if you don't go when you're here, there's often like student tickets or student discounts. So not something you have to do when you get to Atlanta because if you come to Emory, you're gonna probably get a discounted ticket at some point. And then also to the point of food, there's Buford Highway and Doraville
Oh, yeah.
right by Atlanta as well. Tons of great Asian food. Also just other cuisines as well, but lots of great food, also pretty cheap as well. So great deals.
Yeah, great food scene here in Atlanta for sure.
I think for me, Ponce City Market and the Beltline was like my go-to. If I needed to like escape Emory and like Decatur, just like go for a walk and get some good food with friends and just and now I mean now it's like grown even more. Back then, like 5 years ago, it was there, but like not much else was like around there. But now like Croc Street Market and like all the stuff along it between them is it's been growing a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Let's get to another audience question here. We've got a question about the general education requirements. I know that's kind of Emory's structured way of kind of having students engage with the liberal arts. And so what was that experience like for you all? I know some of you might have kind of touched on these other classes that you took outside of your majors, but how did that experience work with the general education requirements? Did you feel like it restricted you? Did you enjoy that it exposed you to courses in other areas? What was your GER experience at Emory like?
I think for me, it definitely exposed me to a lot of different subjects that I didn't know about previously. And also, a lot of people might say that it's hard to fulfill GER requirements, but like I think Heather was mentioning earlier, a lot of the classes are cross-listed. So you end up fulfilling your major requirement and like GER requirements like pretty easily. So like I think it just requires like a tiny bit of planning, but overall it wasn't like super overwhelming and I actually really enjoyed it. So
You can take some of your GERs abroad as well. So for me, I studied abroad and did my language credit abroad. So quick and easy way to do that. Also a lot more fun. Not to say language isn't fun in Emory, but being abroad is also a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's definitely a positive point about the GERs is that there's so many different ways to fill them, whether it's like you were saying, so a class that's cross-listed or going abroad. I also did my language credit abroad. I went to Spain for one summer when I was here at Emory. And so lots of different ways to go about it. And we even now, this is definitely new in the last couple of years. We now have kind of an experiential learning component of the GERs. So you'll have to have some type of experience, whether it is going abroad, whether it is a class that engages in the Atlanta community or some type of internship or something. So that really kind of has that kind of experiential learning process is now kind of a core part of the Emory experience for all of our students. So we're definitely excited about that as well. I I see a couple questions here, and I know this wasn't kind of anyone's particular major or anything, but we got a couple questions about kind of the political scene, kind of whether it's here on campus, also being in Atlanta, which was kind of the center of the political universe just a couple of years ago, and we know that will probably be the case again. And so if you can talk about maybe kind of what the political environment is like on campus, we want to be kind of honest with our admitted students here. And then also, and then I'll probably take this other question, which is kind of about opportunities to get involved in that space. But if anyone maybe had friends who were in political organizations on campus or kind of got a sense of what the vibe was like on campus and wanted to share, now would be a great time.
I think the great thing about liberal arts is that you have a lot of diversity of thought. Um, Not to like get to the punchline of the meeting, but you definitely meet a lot of people with varying opinions and beliefs. But I think like in general, like that's a good thing to have, and that's why like liberal arts is a great education. But I wouldn't say I'm too familiar with like the political environment on campus, just because at Oxford everything was a lot smaller, and so things were a bit more tame. And then junior year was COVID. But I think like Atlanta is a great city to be in, regardless of like what your political beliefs are, just because there's always stuff going on. It's a great city that has a lot of opportunity for that.
think also adding on onto that point, diversity at Emory is really strong. The types of people you meet, the types of thoughts that people have, even within Atlanta itself, there's so many different ways to think about things and meet new people. I would definitely say that the political environment on campus is enjoyable. At least it was interesting to me to be able to see all the different sides. I think there was some events that happened at the quad. There's also lots of opportunities to get involved if you like politics in the Atlanta city. But overall, just a really, really good experience for me. Lots of diversity and really awesome.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. That's definitely something that we pride ourselves on here at Emory is kind of having a space that folks can kind of feel that their voice is heard. And this is something that we're always kind of working to improve on and kind of responding to the feedback of our student body here. And so, no place is going to be perfect, but we try our best to be open to that. And one example that I always love to highlight is we have a club here in Emory called Bridge Emory, and they basically their job is to bring together kind of folks from different views, bring them together, do like panels where you have someone with one position and someone with the opposite position and bring them together kind of in the name of fostering healthy dialogue. And then I think that reflects our values. And of course, those opportunities extend into the city of Atlanta, like y'all have mentioned. We've had students who work on campaigns. I worked on a campaign for like a year and a half while I was a student here at Emory. We have had speakers come to campus, whether it's our local representatives for the Emory area. We've had US senators come to campus as well. And even like President Biden and Vice President Harris were on campus for an event just a couple of years ago. And so we really try and make sure that this is a place where students can feel that their voices are heard. We are definitely open to all of that in terms of the political space here at Emory. So thanks for bringing that question up. Let's see if we've got some other questions here that we can help answer. I'll maybe do one more from the audience, and then I will probably wrap it up with one or two of my own here. And I see this, I like this question as well. We kind of talked about Emory memory, we talked about Emory classes, but let's talk about Emory locations. I know, Heather, you talked about the quad, but one of our attendees here tonight asks if there was one place to visit or one experience to have during your time at Emory, what would it be? I love this question. It's a tough one. I keep throwing these tough ones for y'all, but take your time.
For me, a place to visit would be Wellwater. It's like the nature preserve right next to Emory. I'm very like outdoorsy and just like being in nature. So it's great to just go out there. It's very peaceful and serene. You can like escape the chaos of like all the people on campus. But that's like my favorite place to go and unwind.
Couldn't agree more.
I'm personally not good at dance, but I used to love going to the Hana dance, I guess programs they put on. So pretty much all the dance groups on campus will come together and do, a performance where each one gets to perform. And it was just really cool to see like your peers do something like perform such an artistic piece. And so for someone who's not really good at dancing, it was really impressive. I think they had it every semester, and it was always a great way to just support arts at Emory.
Yeah, definitely a super strong art scene here at Emory. I'm with you, Heather. Have zero artistic ability whatsoever, but a lot of my friends did. So I went to a cappella performances, dance performances, visual arts showcases. Our musical theater here at Emory just put on Little Shop of Horrors over the weekend, if anyone's interested in that area. So definitely a thriving arts community. Of course, our music program's very strong as well. So thanks for bringing that up.
I guess my favorite place, probably like two places that I would enjoy being in. One is like the third floor of the business school where there's like the patios outside and you can kind of like look over the quad. It's awesome to go out there with like a coffee and your laptop and just work and get to be around other people. And then the second place would probably be at Oxford, the at the St. Sini Hall, which is like the center point of the quad. It's like an orange building, super historic. Really gives you like a vibe for the place, and you can see over the entire Oxford College quad. So definitely, those are my two favorite places on campus.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all. I'm gonna wrap it up here with our final question of the night. And for any of you who we didn't get to your questions, I'm sorry. We had lots of great questions from our audience here. I am going to put my email address in the chat here. If you wanted to kind of ask me any questions, I'm happy to help kind of answer those for you. But for our wonderful panelists, our final question of the night, and we've been ending all of our kind of panels with this, is what is one piece of advice that you would share with our admitted students on the call here tonight?
I'm going to give two pieces of advice. The first is try as many things as you can, because you'll never know if you like what you might find out that you like end up loving. And then don't be afraid to fail, because you can't grow without failure.
Amazing.
I think I would say also like don't focus too much on the academics. A lot of the activities and clubs like provide you a lot of the real world experiences that many like schools or like jobs look for. And it definitely teaches you a lot like outside of the textbook, if that makes sense.
Yeah, finding that balance is huge. Thanks, Priscilla.
I would say have fun and don't focus too much on the future. The future will get there when it gets there. I think to an extent I focused too much on it. I think I might have missed out on a few opportunities. So enjoy the classes, take the funky class that sounds interesting to you, not the one you think is best for your major. Because you never know what you love. And even if it's not something you do forever, it's still a fun class that you can talk about after. So have fun and don't be too stressed about the future.
Yeah, live in the moment for sure. Andrew, finish us off. What wisdom would you
Yeah. I think I echo all the other points is like work hard, but also enjoy the 4 years of college, because that's probably the 4 years that you're going to remember the most when you look back. Like when I look back now, Emory was a really fun experience. I think just overall. And the second piece of advice I have is just explore and try new things, whether that's clubs, classes, experiences, restaurants, whatever it is. Atlanta and Emory have so much to offer. Definitely take advantage of all of that. So explore and have fun.
Perfect. Well, a huge, huge thank you to our panelists for logging on tonight and sharing all of your wisdom and experiences with our admitted students. And of course, a huge thank you to the admitted students as well. Congratulations again. Thanks for being here tonight. We hope we were able to kind of answer some of your questions, give you some insight into the Emory experience. And I put my email in the chat. If there's any additional questions that we didn't get to that I can help with, I'm happy to serve as a resource for you. Just want to let you know we've got a couple more panels upcoming. If you wanted to check out any more of these, we've got two tomorrow night, a double showing. We've got our academic advising and success panel, followed by our community and well-being panel. Some really amazing panelists kind of at high levels of the university on those calls. And then Wednesday night, which is always a crowd pleaser, which is our senior to senior chat. And so this is current Emory seniors who are going to be on a panel chatting with you all, current high school seniors, kind of sharing the insight into their Emory experience, sort of similar to what we did tonight, but even more so focused on that time at Emory and not even having to worry about what's coming afterwards. And so we hope you'll kind of be interested in attending those. All of our previous recordings are available on our YouTube channel as well. I'm going to put that in the chat real quick here before we wrap it up. But thank you again, everyone, for coming. Thanks to our panelists. This has been such a wonderful panel. I've learned things here. I'm sure our audience has learned things as well. So thanks everyone for coming. Hope you enjoy the rest of your night, morning, afternoon, whatever time it is in the world. Thanks again. Congratulations. And we certainly hope to see you on campus soon. Thanks, everyone.